Hi there, welcome back to the Tracing Psychological Safety video series. We're glad to be back, and today we're going to talk to you about the next steps. So if we are going to stop procrastinating about how to create a fantastic people practice for our teams, what are the next practical steps that we need to take to do that?
Right, there are many things we need to do, and we're here to be the bearers of bad news. The work is not done, the world is not back to its pre-COVID situation, and in fact, we probably amassed a lot more work now, and thankfully, a lot more interest in doing some serious core and fundamental work than we had before this entire crisis, or these crises, because there are a couple of kinds of crises that we seem to be going through at the same time. So from this perspective, I was saying in yesterday's article that we are facing as a society a number of moral dilemmas and some moral debt we have towards humans. And we are also facing in the workplace what I call human debt, meaning what we have amassed when we disrespected and unloved our people in the workplace. Both of those sadly, we need all of our leaders and everyone at every level of every organization to do some serious thinking and to start spending some very serious time on themselves. I know we keep saying this. We sound like a meditation app peddler at all times, but realistically, this is truly a time of putting work and thinking into it. And some of the practical steps we wanted to talk to you about today have to do with what are those bits and pieces that will speed you up with this.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that is really coming to light now, and the organizations that are going to be ahead of the curve on this are the ones that are going to win out, is that throughout COVID, we've been talking about ourselves, and thousands of other experts have been talking about how there's an opportunity now to set your teams up for remote. There's an opportunity to test out remote. The opportunity is no longer, the necessity is here now. So this needs to happen. The opportunity is huge, but it absolutely needs to be done in terms of setting our teams up properly and successfully for this new future. The future of work has arrived to a certain extent, hasn't it? So one of the things that it's really important to realize is that a workshop, a intervention with your team is not going to cut the mustard. So we call it sheep dipping in the industry, where you literally take your team, you go, let's do a team building day, job done. Now we're all going to be a highly collaborative, trusting team, and we'll fly from here on in. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. What we actually need to do is, as we would do in the team coaching world, spend time with our teams, creating the practices, creating the people practice that's going to sustain us for the long term. Whilst Joanna said earlier, we're not here to deliver good news necessarily. The good news part of this is that you'll very, very quickly start to see the results of that. And it actually becomes quite fun and enjoyable because you start to see performance improvements, and people feel better about the work they're doing and the team that they're in. So really important to realize that this is not a once and done. It's going to take time, but that will be a good thing.
Exactly. Psychological safety in itself, which is what we live and breathe, takes time and is a fluid state in the dynamic of a group. You can affect that at every corner by having a solid people practice in place and by having enough EQ to continuously apply yourself to this new one job you have, which is to do better by your teams. We absolutely encourage you to kind of settle in for a marathon in terms of building your people practice. A lot of the people watching this have been doing parts of this, obviously. No one has been a people leader without having done a one-on-one or having had something to read or having asked their team to think of various things. We're saying this will go into a higher gear. There's a lot more work that needs doing, and there are components that you can bring to this work to make it slightly easier. For one thing, I think it's worth discussing this people practice and this people work with your entire team. Sit them down and say, right, this is the time that we need to redefine what we're doing. We need to ask open questions. We need to do what we were telling you to maybe attempt in the other videos, which is a team relaunch. Have a sit down, have another moment of coming to coming home in terms of your ideas. I was going to use a religious example there. Not everyone wants to go to Jesus, but just sit them down and completely come together, have a good restart, and say, look, from here on, this people business of ours is primary, and your code making, your operations, your calls, your emails are secondary. I think this is really important because it's going to help you power each other. It's going to give you enough goodwill. Everyone's EQ across the board has to become, has to kick it in another gear and be better. Everyone's willingness to be doing this together has to be better. And then you can start looking at the components of psychological safety and increase each of them as you need to.
Absolutely. And Dwayne's just mentioned that, the software, and that's part of what we do, and it's the main part of what we do. But tools are going to be needed to make this happen. So tools, behaviors, emotions, all of those things are needed to be part of your people practice. So a software, a tool, something like People Not Tech that helps you to build psychological safety, or some other tool. We recognize that there are tons of things out there that teams can use to better their performance. We believe in EQ and psychological safety as the foundation stone of great teams, but there are lots of other tools out there as well that will help you with other factors. I think having those things in place, particularly now that we're moving into the remote distributed world, we know that there'll be a balance across people being in offices, people being on construction sites, people working at home. People will be in lots of different scenarios, but you're going to need the tools and the software to drive your team's performance. And your team's performance is going to come through the behaviors and emotions of that team, and the emotional qualities and emotional intelligence of that team. So choose something, pick something, and embed it in your team. And don't embed it as an add-on. Make it the foundation of all the other work that you do. And I know we talk about this endlessly. We'll keep going until every team in the world is doing this. Make it the foundation stone of your team, and your team will fly. Don't, and your team probably won't, is the key message.
That's right. Come join us next week when we talk about other tools that you could use, and just get going on your people practice so that you can arrive at psychological safety and high performance faster. Have a lovely week ahead, and loads of strength and introspection. Bye.
Bye.